Before you die, you need to hear this. The truth is, everything you think you know about life is wrong. This isn't some sugar-coated self-help nonsense. This is raw, unfiltered Stoic wisdom. Prepare to have your world turned upside down. Let's be brutally honest. Most of what you believe about happiness, success, and love is a lie. Society has sold you a fantasy, and you've bought it without question. It's time to wake up and face reality. You've been told that happiness is the ultimate goal, that success is measured by wealth and status, and that love will complete you. But these are all illusions, lies designed to keep you chasing a mirage, while the true essence of life slips through your fingers. Look around you. People are more anxious, more depressed, and more disconnected than ever. We are drowning in material wealth, but starving for meaning. We have more ways to communicate, but less genuine connections. We've lost touch with the fundamental truths of existence. Do you really think this is what life is supposed to be? An endless pursuit of fleeting pleasures and hollow achievements? It's time to strip away the illusions and confront the harsh, beautiful truth. These lessons are not for the faint-hearted. They will challenge your deepest beliefs and force you to rethink everything you know. You might hate me for it. You might resist these truths. But if you truly want to live a life of meaning, you need to hear this. Brace yourself. This is going to be uncomfortable, but discomfort is the first step towards growth. Open your mind and let the journey begin. Lesson number 1. Your comfort zone is your coffin. Embrace discomfort. Growth happens only when you step out of your comfort zone. Comfort breeds complacency. Let's talk about comfort. You've been told that comfort is the ultimate goal, that a life free from stress and challenge is the ideal. But here's the brutal truth. Your comfort zone is your coffin. It's where dreams go to die. It's where potential is buried alive. Think about it. How many times have you settled for a mediocre job because it was safe? How many relationships have you stayed in because they were familiar, even though they were toxic? How often do you choose the easy path because the hard one scares you? Comfort is seductive. It whispers sweet lies, telling you that you've earned the right to take it easy, to avoid risk, to play it safe. But what it doesn't tell you is that it's also robbing you of growth, of progress, of life itself. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid the very experiences that shape you, that build resilience, that reveal who you truly are. Look at the people who inspire you. Athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, adventurers. Do you think they got to where they are by staying comfortable? Hell no. They pushed their limits. They embraced failure. They stepped into the unknown again and again. Comfort is a lie. It's the slow poison that kills ambition. It's the prison that keeps you from reaching your true potential. If you want to live a life of meaning, a life that matters, you must be willing to be uncomfortable. You must be willing to take risks, to face failure, to endure pain. Start small. Take cold showers. Speak up in meetings. Approach that person you've been admiring from afar. Challenge yourself to learn a new skill. Travel alone. Do something every day that scares you, that pushes you beyond what you thought you were capable of. Remember, growth begins where your comfort zone ends. Each step out of your comfort zone is a step towards your true self. It's a step towards a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I was stuck in a dead-end job. It paid well. It was easy, but I felt like my soul was slowly being suffocated. I dreaded each day. But I stayed because it was comfortable. One day, I decided enough was enough. I quit, without a plan, without security. It was terrifying, but that discomfort pushed me to discover my true passions. I struggled, I failed, but each failure taught me resilience. Each struggle shaped me. It was only by stepping out of that comfort zone that I found a life worth living. Your comfort zone is your coffin. Break free and start living. Remember this: the most profound growth in life often comes from the moments that challenge us the most. It is in those moments of discomfort that we find our true strength, our deepest wisdom, and our most authentic selves. Don't let the fear of discomfort rob you of the life you deserve. Lesson number 2. Expectation is the root of misery. Lower your expectations of others and yourself. High expectations lead to disappointment and suffering. Let's talk about expectations. We all have them. We expect our friends to always be there for us, our careers to soar, our relationships to fulfill us. We expect life to go according to our plan. But here's the harsh reality. Expectation is the root of misery. Think about the last time you were truly disappointed. Chances are, it stemmed from an unmet expectation. You expected something or someone to be a certain way, and when reality didn't match up, you felt hurt, angry, and disillusioned. Expectations set us up for failure because they create a gap between reality and our desires. This gap is where misery lives. When we cling to high expectations, we set ourselves up for a cycle of constant disappointment and frustration. The world owes us nothing, and the sooner we accept this, the sooner we can find peace. I learned this the hard way. For years, I expected my career to follow a certain trajectory. I had dreams and ambitions, and I worked tirelessly to achieve them, but life had other plans. Promotions didn't come, opportunities slipped away, and I was left feeling bitter and defeated. It wasn't until I let go of my rigid expectations that I found true contentment. I learned to appreciate the journey rather than fixate on the destination. By lowering my expectations, I opened myself up to the beauty of what is, rather than lamenting what could have been. Lesson number 3. Friends are not forever. Accept that friendships, like all things, are impermanent. People change, circumstances shift, and that's okay. Let's face a difficult truth. Friends are not forever. You've been told that friendships are eternal, that true friends stick by you through thick and thin. But here's the reality. Friendships, like all things, are impermanent. People change, circumstances shift, and that's okay. Think back to your childhood friends, your high school buddies, or even your college mates. How many of them are still a part of your life? The reality is, as we grow and evolve, so do our relationships. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just a part of life. We often place immense pressure on ourselves and our friends to maintain the same level of closeness throughout our lives, but this expectation is unrealistic and can lead to unnecessary heartache. People grow in different directions, their priorities change, their interests diverge, and sometimes they simply outgrow the relationship. I remember my best friend from college. We were inseparable, sharing dreams, fears, and countless late-night conversations. But as we entered the working world, our paths diverged. He moved to a different city, got married, and our lives became different stories. At first I felt a deep sense of loss, as if a part of me was missing. But over time, I realized that our friendship had served its purpose. It was beautiful while it lasted, and its end didn't diminish its value. So, how do we deal with the impermanence of friendships? Start by cherishing the moments you have with your friends now. Appreciate the connection, the laughter, and the shared experiences. Understand that it's natural for relationships to change and evolve. When a friendship fades, don't see it as a failure. Instead, recognize it as a chapter that has ended, making way for new connections and experiences. Focus on quality over quantity. It's better to have a few deep, meaningful relationships than to spread yourself thin trying to maintain many. And most importantly, be your own best friend. Cultivate a relationship with yourself that is nurturing and supportive, because you are the only constant in your life. Friends are not forever, and that's okay. Embrace the impermanence. Celebrate the times you've had, and be open to new connections. Life is a series of comings and goings, and each person you meet adds to your journey. Remember this: friendships, like all things in life, are transient. They come into your life to teach you, to grow with you, and sometimes to part ways. By accepting this truth, you free yourself from the pain of clinging and open your heart to the beauty of each moment, each connection. Let go and let life flow. Lesson number 4. Sacrifice is essential. Nothing worth having comes without sacrifice. You must give up something valuable to achieve your goals. Let's talk about sacrifice. In a world that constantly tells you to prioritize your comfort and convenience, the idea of sacrifice might seem outdated. But here's the hard truth. Nothing worth having comes without sacrifice. You must give up something valuable to achieve your goals. Think about the most meaningful achievements in your life. Did they come easily, or did they require you to make tough choices to give up something you cherished? The reality is that sacrifice is the price of greatness. It's the currency with which we purchase our dreams. Sacrifice is not just about giving up something. It's about making room for something greater. When you choose to sacrifice your time, your comfort, or your resources, you are investing in a future that holds more value than your present convenience. I remember a time when I had to make a significant sacrifice. I had a stable job, good salary, and a comfortable life. But deep down, I knew it wasn't fulfilling. I wanted to pursue my passion for writing, but that meant quitting my job and stepping into the unknown. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. I sacrificed financial security, social status, and a predictable future. But that sacrifice led me to a path of true fulfillment and purpose. So, how do we incorporate the principle of sacrifice into our lives? Start by identifying what you truly value and what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve it. If you want to build a successful career, you might have to sacrifice leisure time, sleep, or even relationships. If you want to be healthy and fit, you might have to sacrifice indulgent foods or lazy weekends. Remember,
taking me seriously. I had to learn that respect doesn't come from being the funniest person in the room. It comes from knowing when to be serious and when to be light-hearted. The trick is finding that sweet spot. Humor should add to the conversation, not take away from it. It should make people feel connected, not distracted. And most importantly, it should reflect your confidence, not your insecurity. A well-timed joke can show that you're sharp and in control, but a constant barrage of jokes can make you look like you're trying too hard. And let's not forget, humor can be risky. Sarcasm, for example, can either make you look witty or make you look like a jerk. It all depends on how it lands. Dark humor, same deal. Know your audience, and for the love of all things good, read the room. There's nothing more cringeworthy than a joke that bombs because it was tone-deaf. At its core, humor is a form of communication. And like any other form of communication, it's a reflection of who you are. Are you using it to build people up or tear them down? To mask your insecurities or to show your confidence? Because here's the truth. Respect isn't about how many people laugh at your jokes. It's about how your humor makes them feel. It shows humility and relatability. But if you're constantly the butt of your own jokes, people might start to believe you. There's a fine line between laughing with people and giving them permission to laugh at you. Here's the deeper message. Humor is about timing, intent, and balance. When used thoughtfully, it's a sign of intelligence and confidence. But when it becomes a crutch, it's a sign of insecurity. And I know because I've been there. There was a time in my life when I used humor to avoid difficult conversations. If someone gave me critical feedback, I'd crack a joke to deflect. If I felt uncomfortable in a serious discussion, I'd turn it into a laugh fest. And you know what happened? People stopped taking me seriously. I had to learn that respect doesn't come from being the funniest person in the room. It comes from knowing when to be serious and when to be light-hearted. The trick is finding that sweet spot. Humor should add to the conversation, not take away from it. It should make people feel connected, not distracted. And most importantly, it should reflect your confidence, not your insecurity. A well-timed joke can show that you're sharp and in control, but a constant barrage of jokes can make you look like you're trying too hard. And let's not forget, humor can be risky. Sarcasm, for example, can either make you look witty or make you look like a jerk. It all depends on how it lands. Dark humor, same deal. Know your audience, and for the love of all things good, read the room. There's nothing more cringeworthy than a joke that bombs because it was tone deaf. At its core, humor is a form of communication. And like any other form of communication, it's a reflection of who you are. Are you using it to build people up or tear them down? To mask your insecurities or to show your confidence? Because here's the truth. Respect isn't about how many people laugh at your jokes. It's about how your humor makes them feel. So the next time you're about to crack a joke, ask yourself, what's my intent? Am I using humor to connect, or am I hiding behind it? Because when you strike that balance, when you use humor with purpose and confidence, you're not just funny, you're unforgettable. And hey, if all else fails, just remember, dad jokes are always a crowd pleaser, unless they're terrible. In which case, maybe rethink your strategy. 5. Drop the gossip. Let's get controversial. Gossip. You know that juicy little tidbit about Karen from accounting, or that thing your friend swore you wouldn't tell anyone? We've all done it, right? But here's the brutal truth. Gossip doesn't make you look interesting. It makes you look untrustworthy. And if you're the one spilling all the tea, guess what? No one's respecting you. They're just entertained until they realize they might be next on your list. Now don't get me wrong. I get the appeal. Gossip is like social currency. It feels good in the like you're part of some exclusive club. But here's the flip side. Every time you indulge in gossip, you're telling the people around you, I can't be trusted. It's not just about the person you're talking about. It's about you. And if people can't trust you, they can't respect you. Period. I learned this the hard way. Let me tell you about the time I got burned by my own love of gossip. There was this colleague of mine. Let's call him Dave. Dave was always showing up late. And one day I made an offhand comment to someone else about how he probably had an alarm clock that hated him. It was a joke, but it spread like wildfire. Before I knew it, people were adding their own bits to the story. Dave was lazy. Dave didn't care about his job. Dave was this and that. And guess who Dave found out started the whole thing? Mr. The worst part. Dave had a perfectly good reason for being late. He was taking care of his sick mom. That moment, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Show kindness, patience, and respect. Or do they let their guard down and reveal something less flattering? I've seen this play out in social settings too. You might have a friend who's the life of the party when everyone's watching, always cracking jokes and being the center of attention. But when they think no one's noticing, they might act aloof, selfish, or dismissive. Their true character comes through not in the big public moments, but in the small hidden ones. Here's where the Stoic perspective comes in. As a Stoic, you're trained to observe life objectively and without judgment. People will often reveal their true nature when they think they're off stage, and it's in these moments you can truly understand them. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is not about how we act when people are watching, but how we behave when no one is. The person who remains kind, patient, and respectful, even when there's no one to applaud them, that's someone who lives in alignment with Stoic values. But the reality is, many people aren't like that. They compartmentalize their public and private selves, acting in ways that serve their image in public, while letting their less appealing traits come out in private. I had a colleague who was incredibly supportive and warm whenever we were in a group meeting. He'd always have something positive to say and would go out of his way to show support. But when we were alone, his demeanor completely shifted. He was short, dismissive, and uninterested in helping unless it directly benefited him. That's when I realized his public persona was a facade. The most honest moments aren't when someone's under the spotlight. They're when they think no one's watching. Whether they're acting with kindness or cruelty, it's these unguarded moments that show the truth. And this is where you gain real insight into who they are. If someone can only be good when others are watching, it's not real goodness, it's performance. And here's the deep Stoic message. True character is who you are in the shadows, not in the spotlight. As Stoicism teaches, we must aim to live in alignment with our values at all times, regardless of who's watching. Whether the room is full or empty, a Stoic's actions are consistent because they come from within, not from the need for external validation. When you observe others in their unguarded moments, you'll not only see their truth, but you'll also remind yourself of the importance of living authentically, even when no one else is around. So, the next time you want to truly understand someone, don't focus on their grand gestures or public persona. Instead, pay attention to what they do when the spotlight is off. That's when you'll find their real character, and that's where the truth lives. 6. Emotional reactions reveal priorities. If you want to understand what truly matters to someone, look at how they react emotionally in various situations. Emotional reactions are like an unfiltered window into a person's soul. They expose their priorities, their values, and the things they hold dear. This idea can be controversial because many of us like to think we're in control of our emotions, that we can hide what we really care about. But the truth is, when someone reacts strongly, whether it's anger, excitement, or even anxiety, it's a clear signal that their emotional response is tied to something that matters deeply to them. Let me give you a personal example. I once worked with a colleague who was generally calm and composed. Nothing seemed to faze him. But one day, during a routine meeting, someone suggested a small change to one of his projects, and he suddenly blew up. I was taken aback by his outburst. It wasn't a big change, and certainly not something you'd expect to trigger such a strong reaction. But here's the thing. His emotional response wasn't about the change itself. It was about the fact that this project was his baby. He had put countless hours into it, and to him, it was more than just work. It was personal. That emotional outburst revealed how important that project was to him, even though he'd never explicitly said so before. People don't always tell you what matters most to them with words, but their emotions. They can't hide those. The boss who reacts angrily when you question his decision, that's not just about protecting his authority. It's because his sense of self-worth is tied to always being right. The friend who gets overly defensive when you point out something small, that's probably because what you mention taps into a deep insecurity or a value they hold dear. The excitement someone shows when they get praise for a job well done, that's because recognition is one of their top priorities, even if they'd never admit it. Here's the key. People's strongest emotional reactions whether positive or negative, reveal their deepest priorities. They might act cool, detached, or indifferent in most situations, but when something they care about is threatened, challenged, or even acknowledged, their emotions flare up. This isn't just limited to negative reactions like anger or frustration, though those are often the most obvious. It's also about the things that bring them joy, make them light up, or get them animated. The excitement someone shows when they're talking about their side hustle or hobby. That's because it matters to them more than you might realize. In relationships, this principle is especially powerful. If you're dating someone and you notice they get disproportionately upset when plans fall through, that's a sign that spending time together is incredibly important to them. If they light up whenever you talk about a future trip or activity, it means that creating shared experiences is a priority. Emotions are always tied to values, and paying attention to someone's emotional cues gives you a clear map of their priorities without them ever having to spell it out. A good example of this is when people get unexpectedly defensive. Let's say you casually mention that someone's been late a few times, and instead of a calm acknowledgement, they get flustered and defensive. That reaction isn't just about the tardiness. It's because punctuality, or the appearance of being reliable, is something they care deeply about. Their emotional outburst is a reflection of how important that aspect of their identity is to them. They don't want to be seen as unreliable, so they lash out to protect that self-image. Stoicism teaches us to observe human behavior with an objective eye, and emotions are one of the most telling aspects of behavior. When someone's emotions flare, it's because something they value is at stake. You can use this knowledge to better understand people in your life, and also to manage your own interactions with them. If you know what triggers their emotions, you can approach sensitive topics with more care, or use that knowledge to build stronger, more understanding relationships. But here's the deeper Stoic lesson. Your emotions reveal your own priorities too. When you find yourself reacting strongly to something, take a moment to reflect on why. Is it because it genuinely matters to you, or are you letting your ego get in the way? Are you getting angry because someone is questioning your integrity, or are you just upset that your reputation is being challenged? Stoicism teaches us that by understanding our emotional reactions, we can gain greater control over them. We can recognize when our emotions are tied to values that truly matter, and when they're just a reflection of our pride or insecurities. The ability to read people isn't magic. It's about paying attention to the subtle signals they give off. Their emotions, body language, and reactions speak volumes about their true intentions, values, and priorities. Stoicism gives you the edge here by teaching you to observe without judgment. When you can see past the surface and pick up on the real, unspoken truths, you gain clarity in every social interaction. But this skill isn't just about gaining an advantage. It's about understanding. The more you observe others, the more you learn about yourself, what triggers your emotions, what you value, and how you can live in alignment with your principles.